On this video, we're given tangent of t, and that is equal to -3/4, and we're also told that cosine of t is greater than 0. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, we know that cosine of t being greater than 0 means that cosine of t needs to give you a positive value. And we know that cosine of t is x over r, and r always positive. So if r is positive, in order for cosine to be positive, x would require a positive value as well. So we know that we're going to be in a quadrant where cosine is positive, meaning where x is positive. And what are the possibilities? Well, x is positive in quadrant number 1 and quadrant number 4. So those are the quadrants where x will be positive. 1 and 4 are the quadrants where x is positive, and consequently cosine is positive as well. Now, we're also aware of the fact that tangent is negative. So if tangent is negative, it means that one of the two, because it's y over x, has to be negative, only one. And we already know that x is required to be positive because of this. So if we know that x is positive and tangent is going to end up negative, it means that we required a y to be negative to make the tangent negative. So what are the options where the y is negative? Well, that happens in quadrant number 3 and quadrant number 4. Those are the quadrants where the y is negative. So quadrant number 3 and number 4 are the ones where y is negative and the x is positive, making the connection there, and that would make tangent negative. So what would satisfy both conditions? Well, it looks like quadrant 4 is the one that would make tangent negative and cosine positive. And that is also what we know from here, from what we did on one of the activities, figuring out the signs of all the functions depending on the quadrant. So we're going to be working quadrant number 4, having a coordinate of xy, one being positive, the x, and the y being negative. So with that in mind, let's find what we know. We know that in this case, if x is positive, x will be equal to, this is our x, and the -3 will be our y. So x is equal to +4 because of the quadrant, y will be equal to -3, and we're missing r, playing a part of the radius or the hypotenuse, as you want, as you prefer to see it. So that's 4, and y is -3, and remember that the r is always positive. And let's use r squared is equal to x squared plus y squared. R squared will be equal to 4 squared plus the entire -3 squared, and r squared will be equal to 16 plus 9. R squared will be equal to 25, and r is going to be equal to plus minus the square root of 25 plus minus 5. But this one is a no-brainer. We know that r needs to be positive. R will always be considered positive. So now that we have all the ratios, all the variables, we can find the ratios. So y -3 divided by r, 5. And it makes sense Makes sense that sine is negative because if we're working with a coordinate in quadrant number 4, we're expecting only cosine and secant to be positive. Then cosine, well, once again, we already know that, minus 3/4. And tangent, sorry, that was tangent, minus 3/4. And cosine is x/r, so 4/5. And as I said, it has to be positive. And now, finding the cosecant is just the reciprocal, so minus 5/3. Secant, positive 5/4. And cotangent, minus 4/3.